Sorry to interrupt. I just realized I have not been recording the Zoom call. Sorry, proper novice. I suddenly remembered somebody has to be recording this, and then I realized, yeah, I need to be doing it.
Amazing. This stays in the edit. Yeah, we should start with this.
TV umpire to director, we have a player review. Can we rock and roll, please?
Hello there, and welcome to episode 3 of Bits and Pieces, your friendly neighborhood transcontinental cricket podcast. We're recording this on Sunday, the 23rd of January, 2 pm India time, just as the third ODI between India and South Africa gets underway. India have finally made changes to their lineup for Game 3. Much like us, we too have changed our lineup for episode 3 of the podcast. So here, without much ado, let's meet the panelists today. Starting with, when he's not doing funky beat drops on Twitter, he's keeping cricket for social channels alive and thriving. He's Kaustubh, making his debut on Bits and Pieces. Say hello, Kaustubh.
Oh, hello all.
Our other debutant claims to be a stand-up comic turned marketer, but his biggest claim to fame has to be that he's acted in a movie starring Rajnikant. He's Murali Satkopan. Say hi, Murali.
Hey guys, glad to be on this podcast. I'm as much a movie noob as a cricket noob, but it's fun to be on this.
Welcome, Murali. You may not subscribe to all his views, but he'll make sure you subscribe to the Ken. When he's not shitposting about cricket on Twitter, you will find PGK not admitting that he runs the Silkboard Junction Twitter account. PGK, say hi.
Hi everyone. Can I just make a suggestion that we can probably use this entire episode just to talk up R. Ashwin, and Tony is not here, so he's going to be really upset.
Oh yeah, let's use the opportunity of not having Tony to get in all the stuff that Tony wouldn't like to hear. Before we get into that, introducing the fourth panelist of the day, India's and cricket's last hope to make it to the Olympic Games. Srinath Sripath, our man from Lausanne. Say hi, Srinath.
Hello. Unlike KL Rahul, I'd like to take this podcast forward and take it to greater heights.
Oh, so you actually want to take this podcast Mundeba?
Exactly.
I think we should crack at least one Mundeva Loda joke in every episode of ours. We'll try to keep that going. I think we might have 2 or 3 today because KL Rahul might very much be one of the central themes of today's episode. I am Nitin Sundar, the fifth person to complete the panel today, and as PGK already mentioned, Tony is taking a break from the podcast for this week, and Tony's good friend Mohan is also taking a break. So and that's why we've rung in the changes, and that's how it's going to be today. So let's begin. When we started this podcast 2 weeks back, India were winning gloriously all around the world. Ever since we started this podcast, they've been losing. They've been losing everything. They lost test matches to South Africa. They've lost 2 ODIs to South Africa. So we actually started, we're starting a bit of a bet at our end. When is India going to win? How many episodes will we pass before India actually wins a game? So sweepstakes, guys. What's starting with Srinath? What do you think? How many episodes will we complete before India wins a game?
I think another 5 or 6 episodes to the Sri Lanka test, right? That's the earliest I can see this happening. Right now, it's even Ireland have beaten South Africa recently, but I have no hope with this level of captaincy, energy on the field, everything else. We'll see. Might have egg on my face by the time we release the episode, but hey.
You're confident that India will beat Sri Lanka, and that's interesting because the last time India went to Sri Lanka with Rahul Dravid as the coach, they actually lost, I think, one of the formats. Nobody remembers anymore. But yeah, let's not talk about
it. That was everybody, net bowlers, everybody were called in because Krunal Pandya tested positive, and then because of him, everybody has tested positive. So it was a very random side thrown in because of which Sri Lanka won. It's not that bad. I wouldn't this is too much.
There comes the Indian cricket fan. Okay, so Kaustubh, how many episodes do you reckon before?
No, I think we'll win at least 2 games in the West Indies series that's coming up. At least 2. I'm not saying I'm going to win the series. I'm saying we are going to win 2. Rohit Sharma will be back as captain. There'll be some semblance of, sense in what happens on the field.
FTP so intricate, I didn't know there was a West Indies series coming up. But
yeah, that's what I was about to ask. What is the West Indies thing?
The West Indies series
is a test series.
No, it's 3 ODIs and 3 T20s. It was supposed to take place pan-India, and surprise, now it's happening only in Ahmedabad and Calcutta. On paper, reason is sure you don't want to spread COVID and all. Yeah, logistics, don't want to spread COVID, but it also happens to be where the two people running the sport are from. So
Very coincidental.
I don't know.
Complete coincidence has to be.
So we'll win 2. I feel we'll win 2 there. It's not going to be that bad.
PGK, what's your guess?
So I am actually going to say that I think the Sri Lanka series is going to be slightly harder than what we expect it to be. In the beginning of this podcast, I spoke about Ashwin. So when Kohli, walked away from the test captaincy, hashtag Mr. Kohli, at that particular time, Ashwin had put out a post and he had said, like everybody was putting out posts saying, Captain, and this, we miss you and thank you so much and for your contribution. Ashwin is the only person who put this one line in the middle that said that I will always remember you as a captain for winning abroad in places like Australia, England, and Sri Lanka. And I was like, why is Sri Lanka there in the middle of that sentence? And then I went back and checked and I found out that Ashwin has a point, because when India won that series in Sri Lanka, they hadn't won a test series in Sri Lanka in like 20 years, it seems. So that victory in Sri Lanka was like supposed to be a fairly important victory, because after some time, and so I don't think it's going to be that easy with Sri Lanka.
It's also the only place out of those where he's guaranteed to start, so it makes sense for him.
That's true. Thank you for England.
Just to add, Zimbabwe has also beaten Sri Lanka, so it will be really disappointing if India go and lose to Sri Lanka.
Well, let's not talk about disappointments. But Murli, yeah, what's to round off the sweepstakes? So how many episodes before?
Yeah, 3 episodes at least. It's a bad run. Things aren't looking up, so I'm not going to hope much. Though we will watch today with the hope that we're going to beat them. We have that foolish belief, but 3 is what I'm going for.
No, guys, remember that today's episode is being telecast on the day of the third ODI, and we are just looking at the team sheet, and India has rung in 4 changes. 4 changes, and of course the captain KL Rahul did not remember who they replaced with. When they asked him in the toss, they're like, who are you changing? He's like, yeah, there are like 4 of us. Who have you removed? And he said, there are 3 people and I don't remember. So cause just wanted to call out the edibles comment, and it seems like it's coming true that KL Rahul is the person who's had edibles and is really afraid of being caught. But they've gotten a completely new team, so who knows? They might actually
But this is also classic IPL captain behavior, right? The IPL games, most of the time the captain has no idea who's come in, who's gone out, right? They have some sheet, and mostly the sheet is wrong. Sometimes Cricinfo has the teams wrong as well, and then the game begins. They're like, oh, this guy is actually in the 11, and all of that. So Rahul obviously has practice being an IPL captain, and he's bringing the best practices to international cricket as well.
But what I don't get is at least okay, for the IPL, Rahul used that team to get selected into the 11, right? He made sure he was opening, he made sure he was scoring 600, 500 runs per season, and ensuring his selection in the 11. What selection is he ensuring now? He is in the 11. There is no world 11 on top of this. There is no what is he doing? I'm at a loss of words. I don't know how to describe what this person does on the field. You don't have to scream like Kohli. I get it. Rahane doesn't talk like him. Rahane is a different kind of captain, but he's still aggressive. He still thinks on the fly, and we saw that when he the Australia series and the one-off test that happened now, right? That he is clever, and we can tell he has the pulse of the game. I have no idea what KL Rahul is up to. Srinath had mentioned, we can put a cardboard cutout of a random person there and that'll do a better job.
Well, if anyone was in any doubt about how much this group rates KL Rahul as a captain, I think you don't have any doubt about where we stand on that now. And one of the segments that we want to do today is list of items on my desk that are better captains than KL Rahul. The thinking here, obviously, I think Kaustubh already mentioned the cardboard cutout idea. There are a few other things I'm sure that we can think of that do a better job of captaining the Indian team than saving 4 overs of Bumrah and Bhuvneshwar Kumar for the slog overs and finishing off with Shardul Thakur in the first ODI.
I mean, Tony had this great line, right? All the objects on my table know how to be on the top of the table, unlike unlike the captain. But I think just to go back to what Kaus is saying, it's a question of whether at all he thinks there's an issue. He said the energy was fine. Everybody did well. We're not going to change personnel. I mean, they've made 4 changes, but the question is that we all think that there's a captaincy energy issue and things have gone south and so on. He just doesn't think so, first of all. So there's no acknowledgement that there's an issue. Maybe we're all jumping the gun and there's a turnaround somewhere in there, which is a question of, I think, we are panicking, or he's immune to all of this.
The best part
I
about
also
Rahul in the first two games was even more than his captaincy was his batting. He gave Aiden Markram so much respect in those opening overs before promptly getting out to him. And then in game two, he played a proper 90s era innings, right? Where he scored like what 53 of 78 balls or something. First of all, why is KL Rahul even opening the innings, right? Aren't we flush with opening options? Shouldn't he be in the middle order?
To me, what was even more surprising was you said, the captaincy energy, the energy is lacking. For me, the captaincy itself is lacking, right? There isn't any captain per se being done here. I think the fielders are moving on their own. They're like, okay, now I'll go to square leg. It feels like square leg seems like a nice place. There's a little more grass there. It's really how people seem to be moving around. I don't know. I've never seen the man open his mouth. How does he communicate?
Lauda.
I actually think a lot of narrative of captaincy and babble of captaincy is what they call, it's basically sports babble, right? Like it depends on the outcome, and then you go back and say, oh, this is why this kind of a captain he is. So when Kohli is really aggressive and India wins, they're like, because the aggression gives energy to the team. When Rahane is really quiet and India wins, they're like, but he gives that quiet, steely energy to the team, and that is why they're winning. So I feel a lot of this is very post facto, but I don't know. Yeah, but that being said, I mean, KL Rahul clearly doesn't look like he wants to be there. It's either he doesn't want to be there, or even with, like, what is a captain really going to do in such a situation? This is a team of like hardcore professionals. Everyone knows what they're going to do. Yeah, fine. You'll move your bowling changes a bit here, there. I suspect we will see the slightly medium to long term effect of this only over time with people and personnel. And it takes time to figure out, okay, what is your philosophy of captaincy? What is really the thing that you're trying to do? Like for Kohli, we knew that, it was fitness, it was test cricket. And I don't think KL Rahul has anything other than sitting next to Pandya on like coffee shows and saying, yeah, okay, whatever he said. Okay, so I think that's my worry with him.
Yeah, I don't think the captain would have made much difference though in those first two ODIs. I mean, really, India does have a bowling problem in addition to their batting problem and fielding problems, don't they? I mean, I don't know. Somebody said that Bumrah got a wicket in the power play, the first power play. I know the entire 50 overs is now power play, and it was the first time he was getting a wicket in the opening spell in like a couple of years or something, which is incredible. And he's your best bowler. Apparently, batting teams are playing him out, and there are runs to be had at the other end. And this bowling attack, Bhuvneshwar Kumar was bowling like Robin Singh, right? It was a proper throwback to the original Pal Boland Park ODIs from 1997. That is the pace at which Bhuvi was operating. And yeah, the rest of the attack also looks fairly bereft of ideas. There was a fair amount of spin. The pitch was fairly subcontinental, to be honest, and there was a lot of turn for especially Chahal and Ashwin as well. But South Africa was scoring runs so easily against this attack.
And this is the thing, right? Like some of these stats about since World Cup, etc. I don't think India have played more than 10 ODIs in this period. I think they played like 5 or 6 in the whole of 2021. It was T20 World Cup year and so on. So there is a lot of mitigating circumstances, and the serious analysis is slightly different from just calling out KL Rahul's captaincy. But here's the thing, right? Like Nitin, you made this point. An ODI is a 50-over game. You've got very few things to tick off. How do you manage the middle overs? How do you, place your field for your spinner? It felt like Murali was saying, Ashwin was just maneuvering the field himself. There was the entire 30-yard circle empty. It felt like Jayasurya batting at 120 and Ganguly bowling medium pace. Like it was a throwback to that era, pretty much. And there's so many ways you can look at it. Once again, is it that KL Rahul's only way of learning about this is just by watching Kohli captain in ODIs? Because I don't know when the last time he captained in 50 overs was. These guys don't play domestic cricket. He's never captained India before. So there's a lot to unpack there, but he's not ticking the one or two boxes that an ODI captain's supposed to.
Which brings us to the point. What is the point of ODI cricket right now?
The problem is we are like saturated with T20, right now. So ever since the pandemic happened, we have been watching either tests or T20s. Like I remember the first proper ODI. I mean, there was the Australia England series in England during the pandemic, but like nobody watched that for sure. The first proper game I watched was the India-Australia game, the first one. I think Smith scored a century.
I have no idea what games you're talking about, by the way.
Yeah, I'm really in the Ravi Shastri school here, where even Ravi Shastri is like, any test match, Every ball, every session, I remember. But the ODI that happened last week, I don't know anything. I'm like, oh, good. So I'm not the only one. Even the coach of the Indian team is like, this is all a blur to me. I have no idea what's going on.
Okay, so to refresh memories, basically before the Border Gavaskar tests in 2020, there were 3 ODIs and 3 T20s being played. And the first game took 9.5 hours to finish. I'm not counting the breaks, like not counting the half an hour break that happens. It took 9.5 hours to finish the whole game.
Didn't the ICC fine anyone for that?
I think the fine came into place after that.
No. I think the fine is actually on the fans, right? And you watch more ODIs. If ODIs take too long, we'll subject you to even more ODIs, which nobody wants to watch. That's what it is. I mean, think about this, right? Roughly, Shikhar Dhawan was captain when the Indian team went to Sri Lanka, right? Whatever, 6-7 months back, right? Yeah. Now suddenly there is a headline saying this is the last chance for Shikhar Dhawan to play for India. Because unfortunate guy, this used to be 33% of cricket used to be ODI cricket, right? And once upon a time it was 70% before T20 came. Now you play like 4 ODIs, in a year, or 3 ODIs, and it's sort of tacked on at the end of a test series or before the IPL, whatever. This series is not even part of the whatever World Cricket League. Nobody knows what that World Cricket League is anyway. And suddenly Dhawan has just this one format. He's called to play 4 days in a year. Nobody remembers him. They're not even considering him as captain. He was captain, like 6 months back. And now Dhawan's playing under Rahul. That's how much people are thinking about ODI cricket right now. So the point is, why? Why are we being subject to this format at all?
ODIs has become the proper middle child. Nobody really cares about its existence. It's really not short and sweet like T20. It's not long and historic like Test. So you don't care.
I mean, we are recording this in the middle of an ODI, like that kind of like.
Clearly, we are not taking it seriously either, right? Earlier, the stepchild of cricket used to be the middle overs of ODIs, but now it is basically all of ODIs, right? So,
ODIs are the middle overs of cricket. It's like that.
So, since we are a bunch of cricket fans, right? I'm going to throw this out there. Who can explain the current power play rules properly on this podcast?
Oh man, thank God. I was about to say that, I feel embarrassed that I have no idea what the power play rules are. And it just keeps changing. And the umpire with that circle, whenever the power play ends, I have no idea what is going on. Are you getting fielders in? Are you getting fielders out? What can you do now? What can't you do? Nothing I know. At one point, the umpire is doing a circle. Sometimes after the 7th over, sometimes after the 9th over. It used to be that batting team could pick a power play, bowling team could pick. Now I don't even know what is going on somewhere, some power play.
So the first 10 overs of an ODI are the first power play. The next 30 overs of the ODI is the second power play. And the last 10 overs, I believe, and I might be wrong here, is the third power play.
You're right.
You're right.
So basically, there are 10 overs in the middle. That is not a power play.
No, that is also power
Everything
play.
is a power
Everything
play.
is power play.
Everything full power.
What?
So since, in past episodes, I have tried to make the point that umpires are redundant. But amongst all the redundant things that umpires do in cricket, signaling power plays has to be the most redundant thing. Because we all know that the 11th over the power play begins. You don't need the umpire to come and circle his arms. You again don't need him to come and circle his arms at the start of the 41st over. But they still do it. Because they can.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Since we're talking about this, what is the difference between the three? If everything is a power play, then what is the power play?
No, so each power play has split. It's split in the way where the first one allows only 2 people outside. The second one allows only, I think, 4 people outside. And the last one allows 5 people outside. That's it.
The second one allows only 4 people outside. Even I did not know of this existence at all.
Yeah, or it's the other way around.
No, I think you're right. It is 2, 4 and 5. I think the 5 was a good addition, right? And which is why otherwise you would have had scores of 500 by now in one day cricket.
No, but the problem is you're not, at least earlier you had a batting power play and a bowling power play, right? You could choose when you wanted to take that. And there was some kind of I don't know, tactics around it. I mean, I don't want to drop more syllabus into KLR's plate, but at least I would be to think about it a little more.
No, there's by the way good reason why they did away with the batting power play and the bowling power play, because teams were repeatedly shooting themselves in the feet by taking their own power plays. Like the batting power play, the commentator will say, okay, 32nd over, they're going to take the batting power play, they're going to capitalize the next 5 overs. What happens? First over of the batting power play, you lose 2 wickets and the field is in. If the fielding captain wanted to actually attack, he's anyway forced to attack. And then the batting team is playing out the power play. This happened way too many times. I remember this happening 5-6 years back. I think at that point they said, you know what, let's just give them power plays.
Do we think that the current situation with ODIs, and as in the lack of attention, do we think it's because of India's performance in the ODIs, which has basically been very lackluster, or do you think it's a consequence of it? Like, I actually think that maybe if India were performing really, really well in the ODIs, maybe they would try to do more ODIs. I suspect that ODIs are really good for the BCCI and for cricket grounds and for broadcasters. It's one of those formats that they tend to love. But yes, it is one of the most boring formats in the world. And it really doesn't look like India has ever cracked some thinking of formula around. Like in England, you knew, okay, after 2015, this was the new philosophy. The new philosophy was that instead of going bang bang in the middle and just being like playing slow in the middle and just like exploding at the end, we are just going to keep batting and exploding through the entire game. That is going to be our philosophy and the way we play ODIs. Okay, little radical, but you understand that's what they're doing. We know what Sri Lanka did in the 96 World Cup. We know what New Zealand tried before that. It doesn't look like India has ever like stepped forward and said, oh, this is our philosophy of the game. This is how we are going to play an ODI. This is the way we see it, and this is how we are going to get resources around it. Not really. It is the same as before. And India is the only team. Is it the only team in the world where the openers in the T20 format and the openers in the Test format are the same two people? Right? The same two people, you can put them as openers in ODI, in T20 and in Test. And I get that it's good for versatility, but it's also strange and shows some kind of limitation somewhere in my mind.
India's thing is that they've long, for good or bad, been dependent on their top three. So it's almost like the first 10, Rohit and Shikhar, consolidate or take it slow, and then there's Kohli anchoring the innings for the rest, and
then Dhoni anchoring for the last 5 overs.
Yeah, Hardik or whoever. So that's sort of the closest thing to a philosophy, and they lost the plot with Kuldeep fading away and the leg spin sort of being the core to the bowling strategy. So now it's kind of random. But PGK, to go back to your point, the ICC is trying to solve this by bringing back the Champions Trophy. So that's a proper hashtag you remember, where you don't really have any context to ODIs for 2 of the 4 years in between World Cups. So the Champions Trophy is going to be back.
They should judge Rohit Sharma on that. They should judge him. Like every ICC tournament, they should catch him. Are you going to win? No, you're not going to win.
No, but that's the thing. So Kohli had just 2 tournaments, right? And WTC, and it's kind of unfair.
WTC was a game. Literally, it was one game. Okay,
fair. I'm not holding that also against him. That's fine. But he just had Dhoni had a much longer rope that way, right? And this team more or less is Kohli's team. It's you made the point earlier about how there's a lack of philosophy in the Indian team, right? But at least Kohli was I'll prioritize tests and I will figure out to put out a winning 11 to win wherever. And if we lose by chasing the game, that's fine. But we are going to try and win. And at least that was the philosophy here. Fair enough, T20 and ODI became back burner things. And we were trying to solve the hypothetical number 4 problem throughout the World Cup, for example. It was not even a problem. I don't know why they were overthinking it. But the fact is, ODIs and T20s are not prioritized beyond bilaterals. It's very clearly Test cricket. And now that he's not captain anymore, we don't know. I'll give him some slack or I'll cut him some slack. It's not fair to blame KL Rahul for this. We are also trying to figure out what this team is going to be. Right? We don't know what's it going to look like past Kohli. We don't know are they now going to bat out 700 run draws in tests? Right? We have no idea what Rohit Sharma is going to do next. He might be the next Test captain. We don't know. We have been clamoring for Rohit Sharma to be the captain for a long time, and we don't prioritize white ball cricket anyway. So what is he also going to do? It's in pretty dire straits the way we are playing ODI cricket right now. So
I have a theory on why India's ODI cricket especially is so bad, right? Especially in the pandemic, you've not had too much of first class cricket happening, right? I think you've had no first class cricket. So the Indian cricketing, group, the Indians who play cricket really, of any sort of quality are largely playing T20 cricket, right? It's either your Syed Mushtaq Ali or they're playing the IPL. That's what anybody is watching anyway. You do have the domestic ODI tournaments, but that's again a different cadence altogether, right? Nobody really follows what's going on there. And then you have Test cricket that's happening, right? So people who are playing in the IPL are getting their opportunities in Test cricket. And world over now, this is a problem because batsmen are getting out more easily, and you're in the middle of the most fantastic bowler era in the history of cricket ever. Scoring rates have gone up because I would say because the advent of T20 cricket, but batsmen's longevity at the crease has also gone down, which means you have a lot more results and all of that. So there is a certain cadence in which Test cricket is happening, and obviously T20 has its own grammar which is evolved. nobody knows what the right way to play in a one day format anymore is, right? You what do you do there? Do you protect your wickets? Do you go for broke? And you should never lose an opportunity to make fun of England, right? Around the time when everyone stopped taking one day cricket seriously, they said, "Hey, come on, we're going to crack this format. We're going to win in this format. We're going to invent a new grammar." I'm like, "Hey, nobody's watching much. What are you playing? You are playing T20 in 50 over. We play T20 in 20 over only. Like, what is this?" So I think that's why India's fully lost, right? They have good T20 players, they have good Test players, and it's a random mix of the two are their ODI players, whether they're good or not.
I also want to add that they built a white ball team, right? I mean, the way they won ODIs was playing like they were playing T20s. That's what Butler and Roy basically did to obliterate teams along the way. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it. They have nobody to play the middle 30 overs. It's like there's Morgan, and that's it. They can't remember anybody else in that order, and it worked for them. Now, what is even funnier is they are blaming the IPL for the fact that their test team has performed the worst they've ever been. It's like everybody is so confused in that country. They don't know what's happening. They should just butt-dial the Queen.
What's the score, by the way?
Murray Erasmus is signaling power play.
But we should talk about Sam Billings, guys. This is a transcontinental cricket podcast, and Sam Billings this week is the mascot of this podcast.
He was in the Big Bash, and you had both Bairstow and Butler getting injured in the Ashes, and he was called as backup, and he had to like, I don't know, quarantine rules, or like planes were hard to get by or something. Like, he drove down from Brisbane to Sydney. Okay, and like, it's a 9-hour drive. It's a 900 odd kilometer drive. We looked that up.
And he put one great tweet which said, "God, Australia is a big country," and that was while he was driving.
Yeah, like, it's an insane drive. You're driving for 9 hours, okay, to play for England, and you show up and you score 20 odd runs, okay, in 2 innings. So
wait. He was already in Australia.
yeah, so he was playing the Big Bash already there.
Oh, he was playing the Big Bash. Okay, got
Yeah,
it. Sorry,
and he was on a flight to go back to England. Like, that was the original case, and then he gets a call like 30 minutes before he books his ticket, apparently. That like,
Hey, please come fifth test.
please come fifth test, we don't have wicket keepers. So he comes in. Okay, like, the fifth test was fun to watch. At least, like, they gave us false hope. We thought England might at least draw it. Like, again, they lost. So from there, then he gets picked to play in the T20.
No, but wait a sec. The last Test match was at Hobart, wasn't it?
So Hobart, Sydney to Barbados via LA.
The moment the last ball was bowled, he would have had to bolt to make it to the West Indies. But his team helped him, right? I think England lost that game before time, so he had extra time to make this trip. We were just looking this up, right? So if you want to go from Hobart to Bridgetown, which are the venues of the two games that Sam Billings played, you could literally fly in any direction, and it would take you the same amount of time to go from Hobart to Bridgetown. And then he showed up in the West Indies. He played that T20 game yesterday.
Obviously, when he showed up in West Indies, he was like his body clock must have been at 3 a.m. or something when he was like batting in West Indies. So he was probably like trying his best not to fall asleep at this time.
No, his body clock was at 3 a.m. and he's coming straight off his test match debut. So he's probably in his mind he's still playing, straight bat. I don't know how England plays test cricket anymore, but I guess, red ball or pink ball at the very least, straight bat and all that. And he's been transported into a T20 game.
So he flew all the way to Bridgetown for, I think, another 2 runs and 1 stumping. Like, he had at least with the stumping, he had a decent day, I would say. It was the only wicket that fell yesterday from West Indies.
What was this? This was a 5,000 kilometer journey for 2 runs and 1 stumping. The carbon emissions on flying from, just taking this, and apparently, some of these websites have this now. The shortest, cheapest flight from Hobart to Bridgetown is going to cost 2,273 kilograms of CO2 emission. He polluted the world for scoring those 2 runs. I mean, there's no other way to put this. Were these the most expensive runs ever scored in the history of cricket?
By that metric, I'm sure. It's also along the way he and his agents ensured that he is in the topmost bracket for the IPL auction. So he's not missing out on anything at this stage.
Top billings for Sam Billings. Yeah, truly a transcontinental cricketer. I think since the time Yusuf Pathan scored a $2 million contract in the IPL, right? If we were to be technically right, I think these were the most expensive runs ever scored. Rahul Dravid will always be the unsung hero, so we will not talk about him, except when he does poorly. So we will talk about him today.
He is doing poorly. Like, what are you saying? Like, they have lost 4 games in a row, like across formats. Like, this, how is this not doing poorly?
Rahul Dravid brought hashtag miss you Shastri. This is crazy. Nobody would ever miss Shastri for anything.
Pretty sure the hashtag actually trended partly because of Dravid, but again, Dravid is the unsung hero. I think Tony Sebastian probably did something in the background to make that hashtag trend, like Tamil Cinema Twitter making Tala Rocks trend and all of that. But absolutely, and I know that we gave him a pass for losing in Sri Lanka because of COVID, and Kaustubh, the Indian fan, came to his rescue. But yeah, if you go back a while, Rahul Dravid has had a really shit time as coach of the Indian team.
I also feel that Dravid. See, the thing again, my thing still applies for coaches as well as for captains. It's also still fundamentally post facto. You look at the results and then you essentially say, oh, this person is this kind of a coach, or this person is that kind of a coach. I mean, there is so much myth and legend about Gary Kirsten because Indian team was winning. What happens if the Indian team lost? Then what would they have said? They'd have been like, okay, well tried. John Wright. How John Wright comes in and has a partnership with so that's the narrative with Saurav Ganguly. I think the thing was with Shastri just didn't give a shit. Shastri was like, I don't care what you think of me. I don't care if you think I am like Kohli's stooge. I don't care if you think I'm a drunkard. I don't give a damn. I am just going to continue to come and I'm going to be bombastic and I'm going to say whatever I feel like. And if we win, great. If we don't win, I'll talk about process and move on. But fundamentally, that was Shastri's attitude. And I think that kind of works in this context because it sort of disconnects you from the results and says, okay, he's going to be like this no matter what. I feel that Dravid is one of those people who tends to probably engage a bit more. I think he's not the kind of person who can say, screw you, this is my way, this is what I'm going to do, I don't care. Even little things, even when they had told him during the test series, after when Pant got out in the second test with that rash shot, and they asked Dravid in the press conference, are you going to talk to Pant? Dravid is like, yes, we are definitely going to talk to Pant and make sure that he understands it. Okay, you talk to him. What did he do now in the next test? He played really well. I think Pant would have played really well regardless. So I feel like Dravid is one of those people who's just, yes, I understand. We will see what we can do. And I think that works really well when you're winning, like what we saw in Sri Lanka, what we have been seeing with the under-19 teams. When you're starting to lose, I don't know, man. I just feel like that attitude is not going to help much.
You just made him sound like some resident welfare association manager. Yeah.
Next week we'll clean it up. I mean, come on.
But you also had to I mean, again, you will accuse me of being a typical Indian fan, which I am not. But Kohli and Shastri had philosophy, right? And they had said very clearly, we want a team to go in a certain way. It's going to be bombastic. It's going to be I don't know, positive attitude or whatever you want to call it. Dravid has had no time to do that. He has had 5 different captains to deal with throughout. And it was Shikhar Dhawan first, then Rohit Sharma in the New Zealand series, then Rahane in the first test, then Kohli, now KL Rahul. What philosophy can Dravid say? You ask him this question also, what will he say? What is your philosophy going to be? He's like, bro, I don't know who my captain is going to be. What am I going to tell you about what this team is going to be like?
No, I also wanted to say you counted Sri Lanka, right? Rahul Dravid is practically no real Lawrence to talk about. Sri Lanka was that one freak innings from Deepak Chahar that saved him. Apart from that series was a full-on slide. There was nothing of note, no real innings, and it's terrible.
But to be fair, half the team got COVID at that time. So that was when they were making jokes to Rahul Dravid as well. Sir, will you also have to come back now? Will you everyone has COVID. So that was okay. I mean, I would give him some slack for that.
And he was coaching half the team only. It wasn't half the team. The team that went was half the team because half the team were in England playing the format that matters apparently. So he took half the team, got a quarter of it, and in that quarter salvaged whatever he could. Signature Dravid.
Unsung hero Rahul Dravid. Always making things happen. We should talk about the play of the week. And that was this incredible run out that happened in Bangladesh. Who's going to describe this for our listeners?
Go for it, Kaus. Go on.
Okay, I don't know who threw what, but basically Andre Russell calls for a run. He takes a single, looks back, turns out there's a direct hit at the striker's end. Andre Russell assumes, he's safe. He walks casually towards the non-striker's end. Turns out the ball has ricocheted from that direct hit to cause another direct hit, and now Andre Russell is run out. Like, if you try to plot this is like a proper, like I don't know, Pythagorean triangle, I guess, like proper right angles. Like, yeah, from third man, ball has come in, hit the stumps directly, and gone straight from middle stump to hit the other one. Like, we didn't even know it was out. We thought it was a dead ball. Like, that's how, I mean, we have been following this game since birth, and we didn't know that, okay, like, runouts are possible. Like, it's not a dead ball, turns out. If the ball has gone from point A to point B like that, it's out. So
the fielder who effected this incredible play, his name is Tanzid Hassan, right? And I found this on some website. This was Khulna Tigers playing against Dhaka in, I believe, the Bangladesh Premier League. The awesomeness of this video actually begins even before the run out happens. It begins with the fact that the bowler is Thisara Pereira. Thisara Pereira is still playing cricket, right? So for me, that already made this clip like very interesting, and we should link this out in the show notes for people who have not yet watched it. It's amongst the most bizarrely unbelievable things that you will watch on a cricket field. No, not the fact that Thisara Pereira bowled that ball, but and then you had Andre Russell. The second incredible thing was Andre Russell was not trying to whack this out of the ground. He was trying to dink this to third man for a single. So this video is already, it's up there. It's already rare happenings on a cricket field. The non-striker is our good friend Mahmudullah, right? Mahmudullah of the famous Nagin move fame. The three forgettable balls of Bangladesh cricket when they collectively lost their head against India in that World T20 game. So Mahmudullah is a non-striker, Russell taps this down to short third man. Tanzid Hassan picks up the ball, and you can only describe this as a trick shot, right? This is the kind of thing that trick shot videos, those billiards, snooker videos have, where the ball does bizarre things. You're sure there's some amount of subterfuge that's happened, or someone has photoshopped something, or some editing has gone on in the background. There's just pretty much stump to stump, proper middle stump to middle stump, and run out at the other end. Russell was dumbfounded. And what the last thing that made this so awesome was that Atul Vasan was one of the commentators for this. Atul Vasan is still doing commentary. Kaustubh, what do you have to say about that?
I feel old, man. I remember, like, when you talk about Atul Vasan, I remember him, Arun Lal, and like Shivaramakrishnan on DD Sport or 10 Sports, like while you're watching,
Neo
I don't know,
Neo Sports,
right? And like ultra, like not even standard definition, man. Like worse than that, like 140p we are watching Dhoni score like 180, 190. Like that's what it reminds me of when I hear his voice. And here he is doing post-match presentations in Dhaka. It's a very surreal feeling, like just to see that he's still around.
There's so many things about cricket in the 21st century that are weird, but look at this one play. Andre Russell is not in the West Indies playing for his national team. He's not in Australia playing the Big Bash. He's in Bangladesh. He's in Khulna or Dhaka playing for a league team there. He must have played for every team in that league by now, right? He's there. And there is live telecast of this game with Atul Vasan helming the commentary. We didn't know he was still there. Thisara Pereira, of course, Nitin, you've laid out the story of that. There's just so many bizarre things that where do you start explaining this to somebody who doesn't watch cricket? They've only probably heard of Andre Russell in this whole.
So interesting you mentioned that. So I remember speaking to some people whom I knew from work who were, I think, Americans, and they were like, we tried to really pick up the rules of cricket and understand. The place where they got stuck was they got stuck at the place where they want to check all the ways how a batsman can get out. So they said that, okay, we reached there and we ended up on some Wikipedia page with a list of like 20 things in it. And that is when they got stuck, because they're like, we didn't realize it was this complicated to get somebody out. And I had to explain, yes, there are many ways that somebody can get out. Of course, there's the standard ways like caught, LBW, but then there is handle the ball, obstructing the field. And those things I mentioned happen really rarely. But I did say that if you want to see a compendium of all the ways of getting out in cricket, please go to YouTube, search Inzamamul Haq. You will find every single way of getting out he has demonstrated. All the bizarre ways he's done it, and he's walked away with that puzzled look on his face. Literally, you should take that and put it in the rule book and say, you want to see all the ways of getting out? Watch this video. That's all.
Even within this video, if the first batsman the first direct hit out of the two, the first batsman had been short of his ground, Russell would still have not been out, right? Because the ball is dead when it hits the first stump. It's new for us who've been watching this game for, I don't know, God knows how long, that we've not seen something like this. And this rule itself is hard enough to explain, leave alone 20 types of dismissals on top of it.
Yeah. I think that we always find out new rules. Like in 2019 World Cup in the final, suddenly there is a rule. You can do that. Okay, so I guess cricket is the only place where actually they're not rules, they're laws. Let's call them the right word for it. But yes, we find out new laws every day.
So, who had a weirder week in cricket? Was it Andre Russell or Sam Billings? The answer is KL Rahul, by the way.
He's still having the week. The week is still on for him. Wow.
Yeah, and KL Rahul is still hoping that nobody finds out. So the week is not over.
Hey, what I found strange was like on the day we now know KL Rahul is clueless as captain. That was the day Lucknow decided to announce very publicly that he is the new face of the franchise.
Because he can do three different things apparently. He can keep, he can bat, he can do three different things. Except saying, he didn't say captain.
The funniest thing I saw was about the Ahmedabad franchise, and they announced Hardik Pandya as the captain. And I think it was between him and Shreyas, and then finally they decided, okay, we're going to go with this. And I remember someone writing somewhere on some article saying that this is such a strange choice because Hardik Pandya isn't even the first choice captain in his own family. Because for Baroda, Krunal is the captain. I mean, like, even when Hardik was available and playing and all, Baroda was like, yeah, that's cool, sir. You chill. Okay, this guy is the captain. So Krunal was always the captain between the two of them. And now Ahmedabad is like, no, isko bana denge. Okay, main karke aaya. So, yeah.
But this does sort of complete the legacy. Right? It looks like the mentor for Lucknow and Ahmedabad is Karan Johar. It connects the dots perfectly. They're both
Totally connects the dots. No, this is a world famous callback to the Jimmy Ormond sledge directed at Aqua of him not being the best player in his own family. But yeah, so well done Team Ahmedabad for getting the wrong Pandya to lead your team. But I'm sure the owners of the Lucknow franchise saw that KL Rahul is someone who can vocally lead from the front because Munde ba lauda. I think we've juiced that one to
as good a note as any to
wind up this podcast. Yeah. Right. Any closing thoughts, guys? Will India, before we actually take this podcast live, would they have actually won a game and made us look like fools?
No, you're still losing the series. What looking like fools now? Like, how does it matter?
Yeah, they're playing ODIs. They anyway look like fools. That's true.
Yeah. I have a concluding note from Vernon Philander on the pre-match show today. He said, like, it was a great privilege to be in the commentary box with Sunny Gavaskar. I'd just like to say, because he kept going 3-0 in the tests. I want to tell the viewers that there's only one team that can win this series 3-0.
Ooh. Wait till he has Atul Watson for commentary, in the commentary box.
Yeah, or wait till Vernon Philander steps out of the crease and swings at a ball without looking, and that's it.
Or grounding his bat.
Without tucking his shirt in.
Then, and only then, will Sunil Gavaskar come and retort.
Then Vernon shall be philandered.
He was in a strongly worded letter. But yes.
On that note, guys, it's time to wrap up episode 3 of Bits and Pieces. We'll link the interesting trick shot video in the show notes. We may or may not link details regarding the carbon emissions that Sam Billings has subjected the world to in the show notes as well, but we will also have all of our Twitter handles over there. Until we're back next week, we hope you all have a good time. Enjoy the cricket that's on offer, if you can. Say bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you around.
Okay, tada, bye-bye.
TV umpire to director, we have a player review. Can we rock and roll, please?